Story 1. The first time your loved one does not recognize you because of their dementia. Story 2. Mild trapped air in the abdominal cavity after laparoscopic surgery. Story 3. So, I'm an unlucky fuck. I've been through some shit. I used to have migraines, which sucked. Once I bit into a carrot and it pushed a tooth into a nerve. The nerve screamed for a month, then got infected and died. I had an intrauterine device inserted and removed. I had an ovarian cyst rupture. Glass shattered into my hand and needed to be removed. I had upper palate expansion surgery. I had a thyroidectomy. Let me tell you, it all pales in comparison to this. A few years ago, I got a migraine that never stopped and kept getting worse. My doctors decided to do a lumbar puncture. The lumbar puncture did not clot. All the cerebrospinal fluid in my body leaked into my abdomen. My brain lost its cushion and was warped in my skull. I could feel it like 10,000 knives shredding my mind. If I tried to stand, my legs gave out from the overwhelming agony. The hospital told me I needed to wait 5 days before they would do surgery to fix it, to see if my body would heal on its own. I spent 5 days in hell. I forgot to eat. I couldn't move or function. I just existed in agony, trying not to move an inch because the pain would swell again. Eventually, I had surgery. I could feel needles being inserted into my spine and blood being injected into the space between my vertebrae, ballooning the area and sending jolts of electricity to my feet. Then the original problem they were testing for returned. Excess cerebrospinal fluid was crushing my brain. Took about 4 hours for that to come back. It also took doctors 2 years to deal with the fact that I had a collapsed cerebrospinal fluid vein. All the cerebrospinal fluid backed up, crushing my brain, optic nerves, and spinal cord. I was basically catatonic in agony for 2 years, bedridden and out of it, worse than a migraine. Because that is a thing. Story 4. People who have never experienced depression often think it is just sadness. Story 5. Gout and passing kidney stones. The latter is sometimes described as the closest a man can get to the pain of childbirth. I am sure childbirth can hurt more. The good thing about kidney stones, at least for me, was how quickly I was given heavy-duty pain relief. There was no arguing or pleading. One look at me and the nurse asked if they could get some morphine. Story 6. Grief. You may think you can handle it, and most days you do. But the soul-crushing experience of losing someone close is not something you can understand until you have gone through it yourself. The emotional pain is overwhelming. Story 7. It is not really pain. It is a panic attack. People dismiss them, but when you have one yourself, you understand. Story 8. People often dismiss chronic pain and treat sufferers like whiny children. Yet, when someone has had the same headache for 3 days, they can be incapacitated. No, Karen, go out in the sun like the rest of us do. Story 9. Combat is nothing like video games or movies. It is gritty, gory, intense, and terrifying. People do not respawn. I say this as a veteran of multiple deployments who served as a medic. Story 10. Bladder pain. You have no idea until you experience it. It's not just pain, it's urgency. The urgency is warped into pain, like needles in your bladder. You can never be comfortable. Lying down, the pain increases until you have to urinate. But urination doesn't stop it. It only reduces the pain slightly for a few minutes. You lie sobbing on the shower floor, urinating on yourself because you are so exhausted. This is what living with interstitial cystitis is like. The condition is underfunded and under-researched, and no one cares because it is treated as women's health. The last Food and Drug Administration approved medication dates from the 1990s. I won't live to 50 because I will take my life before then. Also consider that 85% of medications cause flares. We cannot take life-saving medications or we face pain like acid in our bladder. I will choose death over that. If I get cancer, I am as good as dead. I am really sorry you are feeling this much pain and hopelessness. If you are thinking about harming yourself or are in immediate danger, please call your local emergency number now. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you are elsewhere, please contact your local emergency services or a local crisis hotline. If you want, I can help find resources, contact numbers, or steps to get help. Are you safe right now? Story 11. Kidney stones were the worst. They made me want someone to kill me. I have given birth to 3 children. Childbirth was not a good experience. I had a gallbladder stone attack and later had my gallbladder removed. I have also had dental problems. I do not think the pain of kidney stones can be accurately described. Story 12. Domestic violence causes complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which medical professionals say is common among law enforcement officers, firefighters, military veterans, and other survivors. That is, if you survive. I am so sorry that so many of you resonate with this. It is absolutely life-destroying. Story 13. The loss of a pregnancy. Deciding to terminate a late-term pregnancy after learning your child has an incurable defect and will not survive. No, I am not interested in a debate. Jesus and I are all good. Work on your own grace and salvation and do not worry about mine. Story 14. Psychological pain includes alienation, bullying, and exclusion. In ancient Rome, being excluded from the community was considered so damaging that anyone sentenced to death could choose exile instead. An ancient Turkish proverb says the axe forgets what the tree remembers. Story 15. Menstrual cramps and everything else that comes with menstruation. Story 16. Cluster headaches are like getting fucked in the eye by a demon with a knife for a penis. Story 17. Opioid withdrawal. Nobody even tries to understand because people say we did it to ourselves and similar things. It is really harrowing. Your entire body starts to malfunction. Every nerve is screaming for a chemical it is not getting, which translates to full body bone and joint pain, nerve pain, and muscle pain. And that is just the pain. There is also a massive gastrointestinal reaction, constant yawning and eyes watering, intense depression and anxiety, hot and cold flashes, and it is impossible to sleep for more than 1 to 2 hours for days. Yam glad yam sober. Withdrawal feels like being trapped in a nightmare realm. Story 18. Gout. I did not believe it until I got it. It was the worst agony I have endured. It felt as if the bones in my feet had been replaced with white-hot iron for 2 days. Story 19. I have experienced both abortion and miscarriage, unfortunately. Story 20. It sounds silly, but this is an important subject in my work, the intersection of psychotherapy and manual therapy, and it amazes me how much people, including myself, are surprised at the extent of pain and its impact on our lives. If we have not personally experienced something, we tend to minimize it. This is broadly applicable. Cognitive bias runs deep in our species. If we see someone running late for the bus, we tend to assume something negative about their character. But when we are running late, we are often victims of circumstances despite trying our best. People's ideas about pain are at least that uncharitable. To be fair, we cannot imagine a sensation for which we have no frame of reference. When I was younger, I thought the old line, "I have fallen and I cannot get up," was comedy or exaggeration. Now I know, only someone who has experienced debilitating back pain can understand how it feels. The same is true of any experiential condition. I believe this fact is hugely responsible for the prevalence of mental health stigma. If someone has never experienced depression, they simply are not equipped to empathize. We can have compassion and be with people in pain, but we cannot share the burden or fully understand it, no matter how much we might wish to. Story 21. Losing my soulmate devastated me. We were together for 10 years, and he died suddenly in 2022. The pain is crippling and does not get better. It is far worse than any physical pain I have felt. I would take 1,000 broken bones just to have him back. Story 22. Grief for pets. When one of my cats died last year, I realized just how difficult it was. I cried for days and felt guilty for not being there to say goodbye. Story 23. Slipped disc. When people say, "Oh yes, I have had a bad back," that is not the same. Once you have a slipped disc, you can be affected for the rest of your life. Numb legs, sciatica, spasms, and long-term use of painkillers that can damage the liver and kidneys are common. Look after your back, people. Story 24. I have Crohn's disease. I don't think anyone can imagine the constant pain because I look fine on the outside. My joints ache from inflammation, my stomach is always sore, My bowels cramp, and bloating is a major problem. One day my shoulder and wrist hurt. The next day it's my back, hips, and a knee. Then maybe the following day I only have some stomach pain. I couldn't even hug my children because it felt like my skin hurt. Story 25. I currently have spinal stenosis. My legs do not work properly and are constantly tingling because my nerves are overactive, resulting in hypersensitivity to the point that putting on socks is excruciating. I struggle to walk and tire easily. My back feels like it was hit with a cannonball, similar to kidney stone pain, and I have no sense of balance. Story 26. This sounds ridiculous, but it was really bad constipation. It was one of the worst stomach pains I have ever experienced. I thought it was appendicitis and had to go to the emergency room for it. Story 27. Getting older. As parts of your body begin to break down naturally, especially the joints, it can be painful. Muscle tissue decreases and heals more slowly, and muscles become stiffer and more prone to injury. Comedian Cat Williams has a routine about thinking his grandfather was lazy until he began experiencing the same changes. Story 28. Most gynecological procedures on people with vaginas are performed by doctors who believe the cervix does not feel pain. Story 29. Losing your parents. Even when you are a well-established adult, the loss of parental support still hits extremely hard. Story 30. Mental suffering is different. We all naturally fear physical pain. It is built into our basic instincts, so we know from birth that such pain hurts without question. The complexities of mental and psychological pain often last much longer and are frequently more intense. Story 31. Sinus pain is absolutely debilitating to the point that holding a conversation is not possible. Story 32. Falling in love with someone who does not feel the same way. Story 33. Severe acute pancreatitis caused the worst pain I have experienced. Story 34. Diabetic ketoacidosis is not just pain. It is suffering. I was in the emergency room for about 4 to 5 days. I could not keep my head straight. I was urinating uncontrollably, and my body felt numb, cold, hot, and vibrating simultaneously. The worst part was the thirst. I felt extremely dehydrated. My mouth felt drier than a desert. I became so desperate for liquid that if someone had offered to let me drink urine, I am 98% sure I would have begged for it. Keep your diabetes under control, people. Story 35. As a paramedic, I ranked the worst cases I saw as number 3, severe endometriosis, number 2, back pain, and number 1, gallstones. You could maneuver fractures and back pain to make patients reasonably comfortable, but for endometriosis and gallstones there was no comfortable position, and often the pain relief did not even touch it. You could see the pain on their faces, their color drained, as if they had been through 10 rounds with Mike Tyson. Story 36. Hip pain. I have severe osteoarthritis in both hips that began at a fairly young age. It is so bad now, in my mid-40s, that I have trouble walking, climbing stairs, and bending or squatting is nearly impossible. I am often in so much pain that I cannot find a comfortable position for sitting or lying down. Story 37. Severe irritable bowel syndrome can, on rare occasions, cause cramping that feels like the intestines are spasming all at once and is severe enough to cause fainting. Story 38. Being picked apart by a group of people or simply being bullied. Story 39. A boiling saucepan of Crisco oil spilled on your face, fingers, and chest when you were in 5th grade because your sister bounced a basketball in the kitchen. Story 40. Neuropathy is irreversible and incurable, but it is somewhat treatable. Story 41. Muscle spasms. Bonus points if the muscle that is spasming is torn. Story 42. I had a tonsillectomy as an adult. I have had ruptured ovarian cysts and have dealt with endometriosis and adenomyosis my entire adult life. I had a hysterectomy at 41. I have never experienced any pain like the scabs slowly coming away from the surgical sites where my tonsils were removed. Excruciating does not begin to describe it. I returned to the doctor and was prescribed liquid morphine, and even that did not dull the pain. Story 43. Healing from a skin graft and having to debride the area every day was some of the worst pain I have ever felt. Fortunately, it was a very small area. I can't imagine what burn victims go through. Story 44. Childbirth was the most painful thing I have experienced. I admit it may not be the most painful possible, but I fully underestimated it. Story 45. Once my jeans caught on fire while camping. I managed to put them out in under 5 seconds, but my calf sustained a 4-inch by 4-inch second-degree burn. The burn itself was severe, but the healing process over the next 1 to 2 months was far more painful. Story 46. I've had kidney stones, big ones, 9 out of 10 pain. Intense migraines requiring hospitalization, 9 to 10 out of 10. Those were incredibly painful, but nothing compared with the life-draining, persistent chronic pain I deal with daily. I was injured during training in the Marines. I dislocated my left knee. A month later, I went in for surgery, and because the doctors did not adjust my position for 10 hours, I developed compartment syndrome in both legs. They cut open my left thigh and my right calf on both sides and attached sponges connected to vacuum pumps. That pain was an 11 out of 10. I screamed and vomited from the intensity and was eventually placed in a medically induced coma. I would gladly take all of those at once for a year compared with what I have now. I had my sciatic nerve severed in my left thigh from the surgeries. I lost most of my thigh from subsequent debridements and surgeries. I have severe neuropathy and chronic pain. I suffer every day, non-stop. I barely sleep, cannot work, have no hobbies or social life, and am barely managing as a stay-at-home dad. If it were not for my wife and kids, I would have ended it years ago. The pain is about 5 to 6 out of 10 at all times, 8 on my worst days. It never stops. I have been like this since 2005. I have tried everything, even experimental, illegal, and spiritual treatments. Nothing has really helped, besides epidurals I used to get twice a year. The Department of Veterans Affairs and private doctors will no longer perform those procedures on me. The last one was nearly 6 years ago. I would do terrible things for a single day of relief. The only person who really knows how bad things have gotten is my therapist. My wife is an amazing woman, but I cannot burden or scare her more than I already have. I just smile and tell her I am okay. She is so good to me. I do not want advice or platitudes. Sometimes it just helps my sanity to type or say it out loud. Story 47. Grief. Every day things hit a bit differently, like a ton of bricks repeating the same truth. You are gone. It feels as if the wind has been knocked out of me and my throat is gasping for air. I am not gasping. I am just here, my throat seeking breath that I will not give. Not intentionally. I am paralyzed, waiting for something. Then the air comes. I hurry to wipe my tears before someone sees because I do not want to be comforted. I do not want to be hugged. I just want to wake up. Story 48. The entire process of healing a bad burn can be difficult, especially if it is in a sensitive area such as the face or in a place that is hard to rest, such as the hand or elbow. It is worse if the burn becomes infected or if the scab is ripped off. Story 49. In 1983, I had a forceps delivery without pain medication. The doctor also had to rotate my son inside me because he was posterior. My country doctor let me remain fully dilated for 4 hours while the baby was stuck. He called in an obstetrician-gynecologist to take over. I remember begging for death. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.